September 1976. Chinese leader Mao Zedong dies. Revered as the chairman, he has held power for nearly 3 tumultuous decades. He leaves behind a China that would be unrecognizable today.
农民的主要的财产已经成功了，已经变成集体的了。
His death unleashes massive political upheavals. But the changes that follow propel China to become the superpower it is today. With access to unseen archives of the Cultural Revolution, this documentary reveals how the death of Mao opened the way to the rise of modern China. It is Christmas Day in China. While Christians rejoice in the birth of Jesus Christ, the Chinese are celebrating Chairman Mao Zedong's birthday.
对我们来说，在我们心里是神一样的。
是伟大的毛主席的生日嘛？现在中国人一个不好的习惯就是过西方的圣诞节，我觉得应该过我们的主席节。是谁把新中国建立起来了？ 是我们的主席。
Tens of thousands of people come from all over China to pay their respects at Mao's birthplace in Shaoshan County in Hunan Province. No one has ordered these people to come here. The celebrations are entirely spontaneous.
Mao 主席是中国人民的大救星。
祖国万岁，人民万岁，毛主席想万万岁。
More than 40 years after his death, Mao Zedong remains an iconic presence, haunting China. It is a stark contrast to the posthumous fate of Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin, thrown into the dustbin of history. How did this man, born to a wealthy farmer in rural China, become one of the most influential and iconic figures of 20th century history? His story begins in a period of chaos and upheaval. In 1937, the Japanese march into Beijing. In Shanghai, they launch brutal air attacks.
在战争时期，人们的生活水平是颠沛流离，可以说，战乱人那还不如一个太平犬。
During the bitter years of the war with Japan, Mao demonstrates his skills as a war leader. In 1945, Mao assumes complete control of the communists. In the same year, the Japanese surrender. But war continued as the communists and the nationalist Kuomintang fought each other.
This is the Gaumont British News, presenting the world to the world. For the other great powers, the war was over. But for China, the bitter internal strife went on. with communist armies gaining ever greater strength in their drive to the south. The name of the communist leader, Mao Zedong, was indeed to become one of destiny for China, whose teeming millions now ask a single question: what does the future hold?
Millions of peasants rally to Mao's army. The communists promise land once they win victory. This gives the communists an almost unlimited supply of manpower to hurl against the Kuomintang.
解放军是为真理、为正义和为人民解放而战的，所以他获得了人民大众的无限支援。
In 1949, the communist armies finally crush the nationalists and declare victory. First of October 1949, Tiananmen Square in Beijing is a sea of people celebrating that moment of victory for the Communist Party.
The fighting was finally over. China had been at war with Japan for 8 years, and then there was a 3-year-long civil war. So I think there was a great sense of relief.
因为中国近代一直是受欺负，受外国人的欺负，中国人民对外没有尊严，所以当毛泽东宣布中国人民从此站起来了以后，可以说4亿中国人确实相信，毛泽东能够给我们带来和平，带来美好的生活。
Thus begins life under communist rule. In pursuit of a Marxist utopian paradise, everything is collectivized. And everything is organized by the people's communes.
他把这个地主和乡绅都打倒，把他们土地分掉，然后就开始了一步一步的，就是合作化。合作化运动就是让这个农民就是加入一个集体，就没到人民公社，实际上农民的主要的财产已经成功了，已经变成集体的了。
While the masses experimented with the people's communes, landowners face a terrifying fate. They are denounced as class enemies.
刚刚建国的时候，枪毙了大概200万地主。
As these class enemies are liquidated, America, symbol of capitalism, is demonized.
The United States took active steps to try to overthrow the government. To China, America was public enemy number 1.
Mao proclaims that China must catch up with the nation's enemies, America and Britain. And so begins the era that Mao calls the Great Leap Forward. To increase farming yield, Mao launches the 4-Pest campaign to eradicate mosquitoes, flies, rats, and above all, sparrows. Birds are blamed for gobbling up grain and robbing people of the fruits of their labor. The masses of China are mobilized, and citizens take to banging pans or beating drums to scare away the birds. Vast flocks fly until they fall exhausted from the sky. Mao wants even nature to bend to his will.
麻雀消灭之后，那就是各种病虫害的泛滥。所以你不尊重科学，不尊重自然规律的结果，那最终是受到惩罚。
With no birds to control them, insect populations explode. Locusts swarm over the country, eating everything in their path. A huge ecological disaster unfolds, and famine grips rural China. The catastrophic 4-Pest campaign was only one part of the Great Leap Forward. To increase industrial output, Chairman Mao concludes that China must produce more steel. At the time, China is manufacturing 5 million tons of steel a year. Mao's target, 100 million. Radical measures are needed.
从乡村到都市，从学校到军队，甚至中央领导机关，到处都是火热的炼钢炼铁场景。近百万座土高炉、小高炉在全国各地树立起来，农业只能为钢铁让路。
The Four Pests campaign, the Great Leap Forward, and a series of floods and droughts leads to catastrophe. Government estimates claim that 15 million died of starvation. But the true dimension of what happened is only now coming to light. Ironically, thanks to the Communist Party's meticulous record-keeping.
Around about the year 2003 or 4, I noticed that increasingly archives from the communist era were being declassified, and they really allow me to put together what I would refer to as a self-portrait by the Communist Party of China. In other words, what I use is the material they found, the conclusions they reach.
Inside the archives, Decotter found shocking accounts of what became known as the Great Famine. Decotter has concluded that the Great Leap Forward caused at least 45 million deaths.
This extraordinary image that comes from a report by a local cadre in a county in Sichuan province, where he finds out that locally in the county, about 250,000 of kilos of mud have been dug up and eaten. So he wants to find out what happens. He goes down to the village. He sees a pit with villagers naked, sweating under the glare of the sun, shriveled bodies, queuing up in order to go down the pit and grab a handful of the white porcelain-colored mud referred to as Guanyin soil. It's a vision of hell. It's a vision of hell. And once you know what happens when people ingest mud, it of course fills the stomach. But then once the moisture's taken out, it acts like concrete. So the entire digestive system is entirely blocked up. People die of pain. Excruciating pain. It's awful.
Tsai Chong-kuo was born in 1955 in Wuhan, China, and he remembers the time of the Great Leap Forward vividly.
我是1955年出生的，那个时候我有6岁7岁了，所以有些记忆很深刻。其中一点就是在街上呢，这个看到一些很多人抢吃的，我印象非常深的，一个人吃一个饼。 然后另外一个人冲过去就抢过去，然后其他人就打他，再怎么打他不管，他就这么往嘴里边塞。
By 1962, Mao's position as the supreme leader of Communist China is under threat from rivals in the party. Fearing that he will be deposed, Mao unleashes the Cultural Revolution. China in the late 50s. Mao's Great Leap Forward is a shattering failure. But with his power under threat, Mao comes up with a plan to restore his prestige. He unleashes the Cultural Revolution. It's an audacious strategy to smash his own Communist Party apparatus from top to bottom. His justification? The party is corrupted by capitalism.
一场大动乱开始了。一批批红卫兵喊着“造反有理”的口号，走出校园，冲向社会，开始了所谓的“破四旧”运动。他们的锋芒所及，一批批文物古迹被毁，一处处人文景观遭到破坏。 付之一炬的是被称为风姿修的琴棋书画，接受批斗的是被称为牛鬼蛇神的各色人等。在南方的一所艺术院校里，批斗的对象竟然是教学的道具，这些石膏像统统被贴上了各种各样的标签。
当然，文化大革命的背景非常复杂，一个最直接的原因那就是大饥荒之后他的威信严重受挫，特别是有个中央工作会议7000人会议上，毛其实是受到大家的冷落，甚至是批判的。
Let everybody attack everybody so that nobody will be left standing to undermine me, Chairman Mao.
In 1966, Mao mobilizes millions of young Chinese to stamp out anything regarded as bourgeois and foreign. Squads of fanatical Red Guards burn temples, ransack homes, and denounce millions. This remarkable footage shows the Red Guards raiding homes of people suspected of harboring capitalist thoughts. Even playing the piano or reading Western literature is seen as reason to destroy lives. In Shanghai alone, Red Guards raid 1 million homes.
在批斗过程当中，有好些学生就特别积极，上去打那些批斗的老师啊，上去打那些被批斗的那些地主啊，甚至有很多人他自己就是批斗的对象的亲戚、孩子，他也上去打他的爸爸妈妈，他上去斗他的这个叔叔爷爷。
Frank Ching was living in Hong Kong at the time and visits his family in China.
I visited China in 73 and again in 74. My nephew was about 6 years old at that time, and he folded a newspaper into a paper airplane. And, children do things like that. And for that, he was arrested because, of course, Mao's picture was on the newspaper. I think that's an example of just how irrational things were, that they would think a 6-year-old child was committing a counter-revolutionary crime by making a paper airplane.
The Red Guards frequently target religions like Christianity, which Mao denounces as anti-communist.
因为马克思主义他都是无神论者，他认为宗教那就是鸦片，是毒害人民的，欺骗人民的。
Red Guard units raze temples, mosques, and churches to the ground.
所有的书都烧掉了，中国过去的书叫封建主义的，这个如果是西方的书就是帝国主义，那书都被烧掉了，你想宗教还能活吗？
The Red Guards denounce millions of ordinary people publicly, and Mao's rivals are openly humiliated. At the top of Mao's target list, President Liu Shaozi and Deng Xiaoping, who is in charge of party administration. They are labeled the prime capitalist raiders.
刘少奇、邓小平竭力推行反革命的修正主义路线，阴谋篡党篡政。
Deng Xiaoping is sent for re-education and spends 3 years working in a tractor factory. He at least survives, but thousands of others are not so lucky. Red Guards haul out highly ranked officials for public shaming. The guards hang huge placards displaying their names and alleged crimes around their necks. Doubled up on stage, in front of frenzied crowds, the beatings begin. As the Cultural Revolution brings chaos to China, Mao's personality cult deepens, while his Red Guards destroy every sign of religious faith. He will become a god.
因此，在那个年代，毛泽东成为中国人民的神。
Mao's Cultural Revolution shapes the Chinese political landscape to the present day.
One of the great tragedies of the Cultural Revolution is, of course, that every party member to this very day sees the Cultural Revolution as something to be avoided at all cost. In fact, they equate democracy with the Cultural Revolution. To this very day, including Xi Jinping, leading members are determined to never, ever allow any criticism of the Communist Party of China.
Then, in 1973, Mao appears to change course. He reinstates Deng Xiaoping, supposedly the second biggest capitalist roader purged in the Cultural Revolution. Then another stunning development. After years of public campaigns against the United States, Mao establishes diplomatic ties with the former enemy. China is being transformed. Foreign leaders are invited to Beijing, including representatives from Singapore.
当然，改变主义一方面是由于外交困境，得罪了美国、苏联两个集团，另一方面呢是国内文化大革命，实际上也遭遇了失败，国家的经济也面临了崩溃。 所以他也急于寻找出路，让邓小平复出，他也想，通过邓小平，搞一搞经济，把经济稍微有所恢复。
Chairman Mao was 82 at the time he meets Lee Kuan Yew in May 1976. Unknown to most Chinese, and certainly the world, Mao was sick. In the early morning of the 9th of September, Mao dies in Beijing.
他去世的那一天，我当然记得，走到路上，广播就广播毛泽东去世了。我没有什么悲伤。 我后来有点悲伤，我当时没悲伤，然后我就特别的观察周围的人，有的人买报纸，我没见到人哭。
You don't know what is genuine and what is not. You have memoirs of people who will say, "I was very bemused because my father invited friends and opened a bottle of wine to celebrate, and the following day they were crying in public."
多数老百姓其实还是挺悲伤的。 还是悲伤的。我当时在农村时候看到很多人都哭得昏过去了。
After the grief, real or pretend, comes confusion. Mao's rivals contend for power, and China begins a long journey of change. A few minutes past midnight, the 9th of September 1976, the chairman is dead.
毛主
在您身旁的首都工人阶级向您庄严宣誓：我们把您开创的无产阶级革命事业进行到底。
As millions publicly grieve, many reflect on the decades of hardship and death that Mao has inflicted on China. The mass starvation that came in the wake of the Great Leap Forward, and the slaughter and humiliation of the Cultural Revolution. With Mao dead, blame for excesses is laid at other doors. The so-called Gang of Four, led by Mao's widow, Jiang Qing. She commits suicide. In the years immediately after Mao's death, his overpowering presence withers, and power passes into the hands of Deng Xiaoping. Deng is soon preaching a new doctrine.
邓小平的话，不管白猫黑猫，抓住老鼠就是好猫。这句话其实对于当时突破僵局、突破毛思想的束缚、开启改革开放的征程，对于解放思想其实都是有很大意义的。也就是说，人民的生活能不能改善，这个是衡量的一个标准，而不要去看它是不是符合马克思主义的教条。
你不要管毛怎么说的，列宁怎么说的，马克思怎么说，不要管了，有利于这个就行，就这个意思。
The communes that had dominated Chinese society under Mao begin to disappear. And Deng releases the pent-up energies of private enterprise. "90-year-old Guo Peizhi, who once cooked for Mao Zedong, becomes the first restaurateur in China.
毛主席死了以后，邓小平他提出经济领域的改革开放，那全国之行谁第一啊？我这儿了。 就是我这儿了。
And being first causes all kinds of difficulties. Mr. Guo opens his restaurant, The Happy Guest, in Beijing in 1980, with a loan of 500 yuan, and provokes uproar. The official who gave Mr. Guo his permit is investigated for wrongdoing.
文化大革命取消资本主义的思潮，而做买卖就是资本啊。 于是我在上边后边有三两的就说了，现在资本主义复辟了，有私人做买卖，头里这个人就是开买的，他们家资本主义复辟了。那我听见这个，我赶紧往前走吧，不理他们了。背后的指指点点，说这说那。
But Mr. Guo has powerful backers, the ordinary people who queue up to eat his wares, and comrades who believe in Deng Xiaoping's new message.
可住胡同都灌满了人，干嘛了？来看看阅兵饭馆开张了。那里屋也坐着一些人吃饭呢。
A 1980 media report in the British newspaper The Daily Telegraph recognized that the Happy Guest is a sign of dramatic change. The article read, "For nearly 20 years, the Chinese authorities denounced this sort of business as a remnant of capitalism which should be vigorously suppressed." The opening of the Happy Guest restaurant is a stark symbol of the complete economic about-face China's leaders have performed over the past few years. As Deng throws open the doors of private enterprise, he signals another momentous change. China will also open its doors to the world. Deng embarks on a round of diplomacy with world leaders and encourages foreign investment. The rapid developments that come after the death of Mao turn into one of the most remarkable revolutions of the 20th century. A communist dictatorship transformed into a juggernaut of free enterprise. But Deng's new world soon generates its own discontents.
Now, with wealth came corruption and inflation, and a lot of people felt that these were new problems that needed to be tackled head on.
88年物价上涨非常快，就引起了普遍的惊慌。大家觉得我这100块钱过1个星期就不算什么了，过1个月就没了。大家在抢购，在大商店门口排长队抢购电视机、冰箱这些东西，然后呢，很多人在银行排队去提款，要把钱全部提出来，导致那种金融危机。这也是49年以后第一次出现的，所以我们当时就觉得这个很普遍的觉得这个经济要垮了，而且呢，觉得这样下去根本不行。
Capitalism has been unleashed, and China's leaders struggle to control its consequences. The intelligentsia argues that a democratic system will be more responsive to these economic problems.
There was a feeling that you need to have not just economic reform, you need political reform.
At that time, the price keep on raising. Because of that, people are really worried about their livelihood and angry with the whole bureaucrats way of dealing with prices. So we need democracy, democratic reform to give us a better system of control.
Some university lecturers and newspapers campaigned for political change. And on April the 15th, 1989, the students begin marching in the streets. The protest gathers momentum quickly. By May 1989, over 1 million people gather in Tiananmen Square.
我们住的那个街区，很多的老太太、老大爷就在下边大声喊叫，大家都下来上街，堵军车、堵坦克，保护我们的孩子。哇，那是现在回想起来，大家都说六四屠杀呀，什么东西，其实特别感人的是，你难以置信的是，5月20号我到北京的第2天。很多老太太、老大爷把军车、坦克堵住，他们拿着被子睡在军车下边，睡在坦克下边几天，然后大家跟士兵讨论。
The demonstrators express their demands by building a goddess of democracy from styrofoam and papier-mâché. As the crowds gather, Deng and the party leadership watch anxiously. Then, on the 4th of June, they run out of patience. Deng orders in the tanks.
When Deng Xiaoping sees what is happening on Tiananmen Square in 1989, you can sense what his reaction will be. This is just the start of another cultural revolution. This is another attempt by ordinary people to criticize and undermine the Communist Party of China, and he's determined to not let it happen. And we know what happened. He used the tanks to send out a very powerful signal, one that pulsates to this very day, namely, never query the monopoly on power of the Communist Party of China.
这里看到一个18、19岁、20岁的年轻人的尸体， 离这之前都跟他们很好，要看变成了尸体，这是很大的事的。
4th of June 1989. As the tanks roll into Tiananmen Square, crushing the protests, the world recoils in horror.
Everybody said, this is terrible, we cannot be friends with this country.
Economic sanctions are imposed on China by many Western nations. The United States bans arms sales to China. That ban is still in force today. But inside China, Deng and the party leaders impose strict new controls. They will not lose control again.
Mao Zedong had said, a single spark can start a prairie fire. And then they want to avoid that single spark. So what they have done after Tiananmen Square, from Jiang Zemin to Wu Jintao to Xi Jinping, was to crush all dissent. No political reform, no freedom of speech, no freedom of press. Everything had to be under control.
Some Chinese analysts believe that Deng did the right thing. China has a long history of chaos.
我也赞同中国需要稳定，因为中国是一个巨型的国家，特别大的一个国家，人口众多，民族也众多，搞不好中国就会处于四分五裂的状态。所以，如何保持稳定，保持中国的统一，这个的确，是一个严峻的任务。
The clampdown impacts on China's economy. For 2 years after the Tiananmen incident, China stagnates economically. Conservatives argue that plans to start special economic zones and a stock exchange must be scrapped. China's doors close again. But outside China, it is a time of massive upheaval. And a succession of global shocks will soon propel China in a new direction. August 1991, the Communist Soviet Union, the second most powerful country in the world, starts to fall apart. Hundreds of thousands of protesters pour onto the streets of Moscow to demand democracy, setting in motion a cascade of events that will lead to the Soviet Union being dissolved in December 1991. The Cold War is suddenly over, but Chinese leaders reel.
The fall of the Soviet Union was a very severe blow to the Communist Party in China.
Really worries them that China will one day, like Soviet Union, collapse. And so they have to do everything to avoid. One is, of course, political dissent had to be crushed as early as possible. But the other thing is that, you need to have to feed the people.
The fall of the Soviet Union and its satellite states in Eastern Europe unleash a period of rapid democratization, and reforms take on a new urgency in China. With astonishing speed, China becomes the only significant communist bloc in the world. In the party, conservatives bay for an end to reform and a return to Maoism. So in 1991, Deng Xiaoping launches a remarkable initiative. He makes a landmark southern tour to rescue his economic reform program from the growing conservative backlash. The ailing 86-year-old leader embarks on an epic 3,000-mile journey across Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Zhuhai, and Shanghai, the 4 major cities that had been at the forefront of pro-market reform in the previous decade.
邓小平的南巡为什么它具有标志性的意义？ 它非常伟大，是一个非常伟大的事件因为它又再一次改变了中国这艘航船的方向本来89事件以后，中国的航船呢又朝着毛泽东的那种这种极左的这个阶级斗争的计划经济那样一个轨道上这个往回开但是邓小平呢通过南巡他又把中国这条航船呢纳入到了整个世界文明的潮流之中，
就真正的变成市场化的，中国变成市场化经济的，就是因为南巡，此前还是半修半遮的。
Peng, a school teacher, is launching a business in Shenzhen at the time of Deng's tour.
我小时候，那时候呢，我们是缺衣缺食，也就是说没有东西吃的。然后呢，我呢就想到，这个中国的经济当时是比较落后的，是不是来这里闯一闯？所以放弃了教育工作，来到深圳。当时呢，因为来深圳，比如说做商业、做生意嘛，不知道怎么做，这是我第一害怕。
Timing was everything. Deng's grand tour galvanizes the economy across China, and Peng's business took off.
小平同志南巡到深圳来以后他非常肯定深圳特区做的贡献。他说这个深圳干得非常好，怎么的。然后呢，这个要加快速度。然后呢，深圳当时政府方面就加快了速度，确实对我们本土的企业、中国的企业帮助的非常的大。
Deng Xiaoping's decision will propel Shenzhen to become one of the richest cities in China. Riding on the wave of growth, Peng's business is an example of China's economic miracle. Together with his son, the two grow the company from a home renovation business to a component manufacturing business. Today, they count Sony, Apple, Toshiba, and other global firms amongst their clients.
国家呢，我觉得是非常重要的。如果没有一个好的国家，没有一个和平这样的一个环境，那我们就享受不到这种幸福。
就有时候很多的朋友跟我开玩笑，他说：“你新里程才短短的10年不到的时间，怎么能发展成现在的这么大的一个集团规模？”然后我就很认真的跟他说：“我说感谢党，感谢政府。”那他们那些朋友就觉得我在开玩笑，在逗他们玩。其实真的是这样的。为什么呢？因为现在我们的整个的产业发展呢，刚才我说了，我们的整个战略就是跟着咱们中国的这个政府的他支持的产业和政策，在往它的方向在做。
Many experts agree.
There is no opposition party. In other countries, if the government decides on something, the opposition can throw roadblocks in the way. They can, at the very least, slow things down. In China, that doesn't happen. If the Communist Party wants something to happen, it happens. Very simply, if they want to build a road and there's a house in the way, they just tear the house down.
所谓韬光养晦引申的意思呢，那就是我们中国呢要低调的发展，在国际上不当头不做领袖，也许会被某些人批评为这个太软弱了，对外太软弱了。但是没办法，你的实力不如人，那你只能是韬光养晦。
中国现在不是，将来也不做超级大国。如果中国有朝一日变得颜色，变成一个超级大国，也在世界上称王称霸，到处欺负人家、侵略人家、剥削人家，那么世界人民就应当反对他，并且从中国人民一刀打倒他。
Under President Xi, China is now modernizing its military and asserting its territorial claims in the East and South China Sea. President Xi is also pushing a plan to revive the ancient Silk Road trading route to Europe. It is part of his Chinese dream to rejuvenate the Middle Kingdom.
现在可能已经不再是韬光养晦，而是强调有所作为。
To think that less than 50 years ago, this was China, where fanatical Red Guards liquidated capitalists, and anything foreign was illegal. But the rise of China as an economic superpower has not banished the spirit of Mao Zedong. In Mao's hometown of Shaoshan, millions visit every year to pay their respects to the long-departed chairman. Even more remarkably, the current government is investing in Mao's legacy. Millions are being spent on Mao museums, Mao TV shows, and Mao books.
您看到身后，这就是开国大典的这个场景。
Amongst these national initiatives to immortalize Mao, the most spectacular and most expensive is a theatre production that uses a mountain as a backdrop.
毛泽东的故事里面，最应该学习和传承的是一种的精神。这种精神呢，就是不屈不挠的精神，敢于牺牲、敢于胜利的一种精神。那么，我们通过韶山实景演出，把这段历史的再现，然后呢，把这种精神呢，把它弘扬。
More than half a century after his death, the spirit of Mao Zedong still exerts power and influence in modern China. As evidence of his mistakes continues to be amassed by researchers and historians, the jury is still out in the nation he turned into a communist superpower.